Today in this lecture we will continue our chapter number 5, separation of substances. So we will continue here our topic, method of separation. So if we having a mixture of such type of component which are separate by the threshing process, winnowing process, sieving process, so many process we discussed earlier. But if in mixture having a component such like a very small size particle like a dust and rice, if we having a mixture of dust and rice, so we are not able to separate that both component by the process which are sieving or threshing or hand picking or winnowing. So we have to separate that both the component by another method. So which method we have to apply here? So we have to use the other method, which is sedimentation, decantation and filtration. So what is this sedimentation, decantation and filtration, and how can we do that? So let's learn about it. Sometimes it may not be possible to separate the components of a mixture by winnowing and handpicking process. So sometimes it is not possible to separate the components from the mixture by winnowing and handpicking process. For example, there may be a lighter impurities like dust or soil particles in rice or pulses. It means here we having both particles, which is dust, and second one is pulses or rice. So how are such impurities separated from rice or pulses before cooking? When your mother cooked, so before cooking, she washed the rice with a clean water, and by this process, she separated the impurities like a dust from the rice or pulses. And this process we will discuss here. Rice or pulses are usually washed before cooking. When you add water to this, the impurities like a dust particle get separated. It means if you having a rice which having a dust impurities, take it in a one bowl or in a one vessel and pour a water into that vessel, and after a few minutes, within 1 or 2 minutes, you can observe that the light weighted particle, which are the dust particle, will remain on the surface of water, and the rice, which is a heavier particle, heavier component, that will settle down in vessel. So we will here separate the both component, dust and the second one is rice. This process is all every day doing by your mother. So this is the separation process, which is sedimentation. So this impurities go into the water. It means here we having a vessel, and inside that vessel we take a 1 cup rice which having a dust impurities, and after that we pour 2-3 cups of water, clean water, and after within 2 or 2 minutes, we observe that the dust particle will comes upper surface of the water, and we get the rice which is sink in a vessel, sink to the bottom of the vessel. So now what will sink to the bottom of the vessel, rice or dust? Rice. So why rice will sink in a bottom to the bottom of the vessel? Because the density of the rice is higher than water. Here medium we take a water. That's why rice will settle down in a water, or dust which having a low weight, less density than water. That's why it remain on the surface of water. That's why it's not sink, it's float, and rice will sink. Have you seen that the vessel is tilted to pour out the dirty water? This process is also doing by your mother when she clean the rice. So she tilted the vessel to pour out the water which have the dust impurities. It means when we take a rice and we pour the water, so dust particle will comes upper surface of the water, and when we tilt that vessel, so the water which have the dust particle that will poured into the another vessel. So we get the first vessel. Inside the first vessel, the clean rice which have no dust particle now. So when the heavier component in the mixture settles after water is added to it, the process is called the sedimentation process. So this is the definition of sedimentation process. So what is the sedimentation process? If we have to write in a one line, so what is sedimentation process? Or write the definition of sedimentation process. So answer is when the heavier component will settle down in water. So this process is called the sedimentation process. When the water, which type of water? The water along with the dust. It means the water which having a dust impurities. So that water is removed, and this process is called the decantation. It means when we clean the rice, while we pour the water into it, and after that when we poured out the dirty water, so pouring out the dirty water into the another vessel, this process is called the decantation process. To remove the impurities from the water, or to remove the impure water which is remain on the surface of water, to remove the impure water, so this process is called the decantation process. Let us find a few other mixture that can be separated through the sedimentation and decantation. The same principle is used for separating a mixture of two liquids that do not mix with each other. Yes, for example, oil and water from their mixture can be separated by this process. Here, oil and water are immiscible liquid. That's why we can do the decantation process to separate the oil and water. How? If we having a mixture of such a liquid is allowed to stand for some time, they form a two separate layer. So which type of mixture we have to take here? We have to take a first component like a water, and second component which is oil. Stir it with a spoon, and after a few minutes you can observe that the oil will remain on the surface of water. It will separate from the water itself. So that's why we can separate the oil from the water by the decantation process. The component that forms the top layer can then be separated by the decantation process. So here we can separate the oil from the water by the decantation process. When we tilt this vessel, so we can pour the oil into the another vessel. So this process we call the decantation process. Let us again consider a mixture of a solid and liquid. After preparing tea, what do you do to remove the tea leaves? What you use to remove the tea leaves from the liquid? So, usually we use the strainer to remove the tea leaves. But now, if you don't have a strainer, what you can do? You can try the decantation process. It helps a little, but do you still get a few leaves in your tea? Now pour the tea through the strainer. Did all the tea leaves remain in the strainer? Yes. When we use the strainer to remove the impurities like a tea leaves from the liquid, so all the tea leaves will remain in the strainer, and this process is called the filtration process. So which method of the separating tea leaves from the prepared tea is better? Decantation or filtration? Which one is better? Let us now consider the example of water that we use. Do all of us at all times get safe water to drink? Let us now consider that example of water that we use. Do all of us at all times get safe water to drink? Sometimes water supplied through taps may be muddy also. We all are not get a safe water for drink the water. So The water collected from the ponds or rivers may also be muddy, especially after rains. Because after rains, the water from the pond, water which is from the rivers, it may become a muddy and it's become a impure. That's why. Let us see if we can use some method of separation to remove insoluble impurities like a salt from the water. So how can we do this process? So take a one glass or beaker, pour 1/3 or 2/3 of water into pour the water into the glass or a beaker, and then mix the soil into that water and stir it with a spoon, and after a few minutes observe that what happened in the glass or beaker. You observe that the soil will settle down in a beaker or a glass. So after a few minutes we have to do the decantation process, which is shown in this picture. So when we do the decantation process, the clean water which is remain on the upper side, and the dirty or muddy water and soil that will settle down in a glass. So the clean water we will pour into the another glass. So this process is called the decantation process. In this first class, here we having a mixture of soil and water, and by decantation process here we having a clean water, while in this glass we having a soil which is into the bottom of the glass. So here separating two components of a mixture by sedimentation and decantation we can do by this process. So here what you can observe, see in this glass water is remain here, upper side of upper layer of the water is remain clean, and after that it's uh, become a dirty, and at the bottom of the beaker you can see the soil. So here supernatant, supernatant, it means the overlaying particle, overlaying component. It means here we having a water, clean water is a supernatant, and sediments, it means the components which will settle down in a beaker, we called it sedimented sediments. So here the soil is sediments and the clean water is suprinant. So by